Welcome to Section 1.3, Collinearity, Betweenness, and Assumptions. Our objective is to recognize collinear and non-collinear points, betweenness, interpret geometric diagrams, and understand the triangle inequality theorem. Our assignment is going to be on page 20 to 22, numbers 1 through 15 odds. So first we're going to start off with some vocab words. Our first vocab word is collinear points. Think about what that means. If someone were to say that points were collinear, what would you think? Well, what collinear points are is they're points that are on the same line. So let's go ahead and let's draw an example of collinear points. So here we go. Let's say that we have a line here. And let's say that we have a point M, A, and T are points on the line, and point H is above the line. What we could say here is that M, A, and T are collinear. Now, if points are going to be non-collinear points, what that means is they're going to be points that are not on the same line. Now, for example of that, we can use that exact same picture. What that means is if you were to try and connect those points, there would be a kink in your line. So again, here's our same picture. We can say points M, A, and H are non-collinear. Because when you try and connect M, A, and H, there's a kink in the line. So a quick question. What about points M and H? Are they collinear? Well, they're not on this line down here, but technically they are. We can connect those 2 points with a straight line. So any 2 points can be collinear points. But when you start putting a third one in the mix, now we start to get a little tricky. So next we're going to talk about betweenness. Now, betweenness occurs when points are collinear. Now, betweenness does not mean midpoint. It just means somewhere in the middle-ish. So here we go. Let's draw an example. We're going to draw an example of point T between points N and U. So here's point N and point U. Again, betweenness is only going to occur when collinearity exists. Now, if T is going to be between it, it means it's going to be anywhere in this space. Now, it doesn't have to be in the middle. It can be closer to one point or the other, or it could be more towards the middle. It doesn't matter. So I can put my point there for T. So T is between points N and U. Next, let's talk about the triangle inequality theorem. For any 3 points, there are only 2 possibilities. That number 1, they're collinear, 1 point is between the other, or 2, they're non-collinear, and the 3 points determine a triangle. Those are our only 2 options when we have 3 points. Again, either they're forming a line or they're forming a triangle when we connect them. So here's some more in-depth looks at the triangle inequality theorem. Here's an example of collinearity, where B is between A and C. So if AB is 16 and BC is 32, what would be the length of AC? Hopefully we know to just add that up, and what we'd end up with is AC is going to be 48 units long. Now, for our next one, where the 3 points are non-collinear and therefore make up a triangle, we're going to fill it in with less than, greater than, or equal signs. So, when I look at TR, which is 17 units, plus RI, is that greater than, less than, or equal to TI, which is 25? Hopefully you said greater than. Our next one, TR, which is 17, TI, which is 25. The sum of those, is it greater than, less than, or equal to RI, which is 13? Hopefully, again, you said greater than. And the last one, RI plus TI, you should have is greater than TR. And what do we notice about that? Well, here's one thing that I notice. If it's collinear, the sum of 2 shorter ones is always equal to the longer one. And for our second one, when it forms a triangle, if it forms a triangle, we have the sum of the two smaller ones is always going to be greater than the biggest if it's a triangle. And that's what I noticed about that. So now, in geometry, we want to think, what can we assume? Well, can we assume right angles? So if something looks right, can we assume that it's right? Can we assume that if we see a line, we have collinearity? Let's think about some assumptions we might be able to make. Now, real quick side note. This is an actual picture of a whale tail. So what I'm hoping for is we have some good luck on this section. This section kind of leads its way into the rest of the semester, so keep a good eye out for things you can assume and things you can't. So there's actually a list of things that you can assume. So the first thing that you can assume is you can assume straight angles. And straight lines. Second thing that you can assume is you can assume collinearity, which goes back to straight lines. If we have lines, we have collinearity of points. Next thing that you can assume is betweenness. Now, betweenness goes back to collinearity. We can't have points that are between one another unless we have collinearity. And last but not least, relative position, which is point A is to the left of point B. Point C is above point D. And that's it for things that you can assume. Straight lines and straight angles, collinearity, betweenness, and relative position. Nothing else is what you can assume. Now, again, another little side note here. This is an actual picture too of a glacier. So I thought that was kind of cool. Okay, so for an example, given this diagram, what can we assume? Now, I want you to press pause, and I want you to come up with 4 different assumptions. Press play and let's see what we got. So here's some that I have. First one that I have is B, O, and W are collinear. Collinearity is one of our assumptions. Our next assumption, that line BW is a straight line. The abbreviation for straight is ST. Or you can have angle BOW as a straight angle. Next, O is between I and T. We can assume betweenness. And last but not least, what I can do is I can say that I is above B, relative position. Any of those would work, and if you have ones that are slightly different, those would be good as well. Now, in case you were wondering, this is not an actual picture. I know you weren't wondering. And that's all I got, folks. I know we're excited about this, a nice short lesson. But here's the answers to our homework. Again, it was 1 through 15, the odds. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and have a good one.